This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Hello and welcome to the Late Late Show with me, Tracey Leese. Tonight I'm going to be talking all about empowering support staff with my special guest, Kylie Jones, a non-teaching senior leader. We're going to be live with you for the next hour all the way from Staffordshire, and I'm very glad you're here. Let's go.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Hello and good evening. A big welcome to the Late Late Show, my last Late Late Show of the year, but more about that later on. I don't know about you, but I'm absolutely shattered, and I sincerely hope that it's your last week before the holidays, as it is mine. I know some local authorities are having the temerity to continue into the following week, but I hope yours isn't one of them. So tonight we're going to be talking all about support staff and how we as teachers, as leaders and as school communities can empower our support staff. And I hope you would agree that support staff play a really important role within our schools. So I've got a special guest, Kylie Jones, and Kylie Jones is the designated safeguarding mental health and wellbeing lead at her school. Crucially, she is a non-teaching member of the senior leadership team. And she's going to be talking to us tonight and this evening. So I hope you are all well. If you're anything like me, you are absolutely living for the end of term. And if you've got children, you may be where I'm at, where it's a non-uniform day, it's a party, it's everything coming up. So that's where I'm at this point. Now I'm hoping that Kylie is on the line. Kylie, are you there with us? Hello, Kylie.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We're fine.
Oh, amazing. And you're loud, which is what I was hoping you'd
good.
be.
Follows all your instructions.
I know. I'm quite the pro now. It's my third show. So, I'm basically putting myself forward for an award. I'm definitely old, Kylie.
You're a hat.
I'm just a hat, yeah. A high-attaining... No. Okay, so Kylie is with us, and Kylie is going to be talking about her own experience as a member of support staff and what we can do collectively in our schools, in our networks, to really bring the best out of our support staff. So welcome, Kylie. I would love for you to start off by telling us a little bit about your role in school and perhaps the previous things that you've done that have led you into this post.
Okay, yeah. So I'm currently working as a designated safeguarding lead, mental health and wellbeing lead as well. But I started working in schools, I think about 13 years ago. My first job in a school was working as a teaching assistant. And I've had a bit of a sidetrack of a career as well, kind of alongside school. So I'll go into that in a minute.
Yes, please. More of this.
So I started working as a teaching assistant, and I was at the school for about 9 months, and I really, really loved the job. And that's kind of where I first got to become familiar with SEN and kind of, learning what autism was, learning about attachment theory and just seeing how it affected these children. I'd just left university and my degree was in counselling and therapeutic studies. So I was kind of really interested in just helping children.
Did you want to be a teacher, Kylie? Was that ever...
When I was little, I think I did want to be my mum will say yes, because my favourite toy was a blackboard, a chalkboard and that was the thing that I was always on was just this chalkboard with my teddies surrounding me, and I would be giving the lessons.
Oh,
And if you
Kylie, you're so adorable. But you didn't start to work in a school as a teaching assistant, seeing it as a natural progression into teaching, because I think that is quite a common route into
yeah,
teaching.
I was trying to stay open-minded really, and that put me off teaching, to be honest. So,
How
you know,
so?
because I'm just not that type of person. I just kind of got to see what is required for that role, and how organized and just on the ball and um data driven everything is, and I just prefer to go with the flow. I
Me
don't like
too.
I don't
I'll meet you there, Kylie.
Yeah, so I was just looking at all these people, kind of observing them from afar, thinking, "You're amazing at what you do, but you don't stop." And I mean, I don't stop now, but the level of organisation and forward planning that goes into it has just never been what I'm like as a person. So the job that I'm in now suits me perfectly because no 2 days are the same. Um,
Hmm.
I turn up and see what hits the fan, basically. But so that was
And then what do you do? Catch it? Do you just
then.
watch? Do you clean up what's hit the
Well, it
fan?
depends because
Which
normally, five different things hit the fan at the same time. So it's normally triaging and prioritizing and delegating and just seeing what we can do. It's just you just got to make decisions, in a moment sometimes.
Yeah, we'll
So
come back to your current role in a second, and I'm
yeah,
so sorry because I've just taken
it's
you off on a
okay.
tangent. So you became a teaching assistant, and that
Yes.
told you that teaching wasn't for you. So what did you
Yeah.
do after you were a teaching assistant?
Well, then one day randomly, I got a phone call completely out of the blue from months and months ago when I was fresh out of uni and I'd just been applying for everything, just trying to find a job. And it was a gym, and they were
Mm.
asking if I'm still trying to look for a job in a gym. So I was like, well,
Kylie, was this a legitimate thing, or was it a creepy man?
genuinely, no,
Okay,
genuinely,
just
it was.
just wanted to check. Just doing a safeguarding check there.
Yeah, safeguarding bells are
Okay,
always ringing.
okay,
Um,
good, good.
And the gym was close to my home. The commute when I was when I was a teaching assistant was it was quite far away. It was costing me £200 a month in petrol, and that was 13 years ago before prices were astronomical. So
The
and
old
it's
days.
exactly the good old days. And it's a notoriously low paid job, so it just wasn't sustainable, and I couldn't really see any progression in the school, although I loved the school, loved the children. um, so I went to go and work in the gym for a bit and hated every second of it because it was sales driven, it was targets driven. You had to do so many things during the day. I used to go home crying because I just wasn't doing what I loved. I'd gone from doing a job that I loved where I felt like I was making a difference to just kind of figures on a screen.
Mhm.
Hated it. And then I just started looking for work in school again, and I got a job as a teaching assistant in a more local school. So I actually took quite a huge pay cut to go back into education, because I think you can't put a price on happiness. So
And isn't that interesting what you've prioritized there? And obviously, like, we'll get to where you've got to, I
mm,
think, in a minute. But that decision was probably quite pivotal for you. And I don't know about you, but
yeah,
when I first started to, like, I did like a supply gig to try and decide if I wanted to teach, and just being in a school, I just had that feeling of this is the right move for me. And even if it's not this role, it's definitely a school. Is that where you were at in terms of
yeah,
decision making?
definitely, absolutely. And it took me a long time to actually make the decision to go back into education because I couldn't picture myself at any other school than the one I was at previously. Because I think when you do work in a school, and lots of people will relate to this, it's a community. It's it can
Yeah.
be kind of a family at times, and so it's hard to picture yourself anywhere else. sometimes. And you go to schools and you get a feel for it, and you can tell whether or not you're going to fit in there, if you're going to enjoy working there. You can just tell, I think, from working there. And I've done work experience in other schools and not enjoyed it, but so yeah, it took a while for me to do that, just because I was kind of still getting over the old school. But I got this job again as a teaching assistant. So same kind of pay, same kind of grade, and they started. There was a boy there in year 7 who was adopted, and by 2 dads, and I volunteered to be his key worker because I'd done a lot with adopted children at my old school, and my dad was adopted, so I'd always kind of wanted to get into that kind of field. That was one of my interests. And then from there, the school was so supportive. My line manager is just everything to me in terms of this story. He couldn't have been more supportive. He was just so inspirational, so articulate. I used to watch him in meetings just being so articulate, thinking, how do you speak like so eloquently? And it was just so inspiring, and he always had my back. He would always sing my praises. He would always make sure that I was encouraged and recognised and appreciated. So I really, really felt like he had my back in everything that I did. And so, he would do things like putting me forward for training and CPD, just wherever he would come up, he would be the ones to suggest it, but things like performance management as well. He would really encourage that career development for me. So then that
Kylie, your line manager was a teacher?
He was a teacher. Senko. So he was a teacher, Senko.
Because all the things you just described, like he put me forward for things, he empowered me, he got behind me. I was thinking, he probably should be a teacher. I feel like that's a good fit for him. Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely brilliant, and just such a calm person as well. Just probably. I mean, I always say that I aim to be a swan, because I like to be really calm on the surface, even though I'm panicking underneath, and that's what he was like as well. So that was really inspirational. You never let anybody see that you're panicking when you're working with children, certainly. So from there, I got a promotion, still a teaching assistant, but specialised in mental health. So I'd gone from being kind of the department's attachment specialist to mental health, because obviously that was my degree. And then I spent a couple of years doing that, and then we did a performance management one day, and he was like, where do you see yourself in a few years' time? And I said, I'd like this person's job, and I named the person, and that was the lady who was she was in charge of the pastoral support in the 6th form. And then
I think I know where this is going, Kylie.
Exactly.
I think I've just figured it out. Okay.
So a few months later,
I love that you did that, by the way, because like when people say to you, where do you see yourself? And like as a line manager myself, I try and get like the best out of people, but like just to be so specific, Kylie, and name that person's job.
Yeah, I want her job.
That is bold. I love that. Okay.
I know.
And actually, but that's really helpful to the person that's going to try and help get you there, because that's a very clear intention, isn't it, to progress?
Yeah, and it just shows the benefit, sometimes of how powerful performance management and appraisals can be, when done correctly.
Yeah, it isn't a tick in a box on blue sky and cracking on with your day. They should be. They should be
consequences.
And it should be about people. That's the idea. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
So you have manifested the dream job.
We love manifesting. So I manifested that, and then lo and behold, a few months later, I was called in because this woman was retiring. She was going to go down part-time, so she was going to do 3 days in the sixth form, and I was asked to do the other 2. And we spent 2 years working like that while I kind of fully embedded into the role. Working in sixth form's quite a specialist with the things that you need to get your head around. So spent 2 years getting to grips with that, and then she eventually retired and went full time. I've missed a huge chunk out where in my first year of a teaching assistant at this school, me and my husband bought a shop together. So we,
Okay.
I owned an off license, newsagent's convenience store type shop.
I feel like that really fits well with mental health and
Yeah,
safeguarding.
really well, especially as someone who doesn't drink, owning an off license and being asked for
Yeah.
wine recommendations from customers. Yeah.
I like the yellow bottle. That's the one.
Exactly. I don't know what I'm doing in the cash and carry. Um, so that was kind of, I was doing both alongside school we had the shop for 8 years. So
But Kylie, was that driven out of finances? Because one of the things that I want to get to tonight is the kind of pay difference between support staff and teaching staff. And I think it's a
absolutely.
completely blameless equation. And I don't think support staff are the enemy, and I don't think teachers are the enemy. I think it's a decision that
No,
lies above the people who are in the
absolutely.
system. But I think it's remiss to not acknowledge that there is a difference.
Oh, I completely agree.
And I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but in my school, the support staff are like the most generous. They're always buying things for the children, always
Yes.
buying things for the staff. And like you look a bit sad and then you go back and there's a bunch of flowers the next day. And I always feel a little bit uncomfortable around these kind of gestures because I'm very hyper aware of that. So was that a financial thing or was that a supporting a business thing?
It was it was some of it was financial. Some of it was that my husband was out of work and he'd always worked in retail. My parents had always owned shops as well. So, and he'd worked for them for a little while. So we just, well, he said, why don't we get our own shop? And I was like, absolutely not. I've worked in retail for a long time. I've seen what my mum and dad do. It's a ridiculous amount of work. Let's not do it. And
And
then
then
we
cut
ended up,
to you
yeah,
buying the
cutting
shop.
us to
Okay.
getting a loan and buying a shop, and then this is our life. So there was a point where I was going to open up the shop at 7 a.m., going to school at 8 a.m., coming back to the shop at 4 p.m. and then closing the shop at 10 p.m. And coming
Wow.
home at to have my tea at 11 o'clock. So that was a lot. But
Okay.
eventually we got staff, so we could have a few hours off in the evening. We'd have to go back every single night and lock up, So, and my alarm clock was set on a Saturday morning earlier than it would be for school. But eventually we got staff. So I had the whole kind of experience of running a business, staff management,
Okay.
that whole kind of operations, project management type side of things. So,
So you weren't
and
you were hungry to lead because you had this other experience. Is that fair to say?
yeah, I think that's just a natural part of my personality, really, as well. On top of seeing, working with my amazing supportive line manager and just seeing how aspirational he was. My mum and dad as well, the way that they managed their staff was just, you couldn't fault them, in terms of just being positive with everybody and praising them and gratitude and appreciation. Working with staff is the biggest frustration when you're in business because you've got to rely on other people. But I learned a lot about how to handle people and how to lead in that job. So for
So
all of it. Sorry,
sorry,
go ahead.
Kylie. you know when you said how will we fill an hour?
Exactly.
It's 20 minutes in and we're on question 1, so we're going to be okay tonight, Kylie. Just
We're
so
gonna
you
be
know.
fine.
So from starting out, from that first experience in school to getting your SLT post, which am I right in thinking started in September? It's quite a
September,
recent.
yeah.
change. So how many years from start to finish? I'm just thinking of people who might be listening who are perhaps starting out on that kind of ladder, or are support staff and want to get into senior leadership, because it's not an easy transition and it can be a little bit niche. So how many years
Yeah,
did
there
it
aren't
take
many
from?
posts really out there. I've kind of only just started seeing. I'm in a community on Twitter for
Oh,
kind of
okay.
safeguarding and pastoral, and it's only really kind of like a new thing, I think, with people recognizing that support staff have value in these types of positions. So, a few years ago, when we sold the shop, I just didn't know what we were going to do, because I'd had half of my income kind of just taken away, and then I was just there again back to support staff pay, and so I think at that time there was not progression opportunities for members of support staff. But now I think that there really, really are. And I think it's only going to get more prevalent, really, just to give people a bit of hope, I think.
I can
From
only agree from seeing what's going on in my own kind of network and my own
Mm,
local authority is, and I don't know about you, but like since COVID, I've perhaps appreciated support staff
mm.
more than before.
Well, the thing is, I think people are recognizing the fact that it just makes sense, to have someone who's non-teaching in a role where they can be flexible. They don't have to worry about whether or not they're teaching 3 lessons a day, and trying to fit in all of the maybe the pastoral side or the safeguarding side, or whatever it may be in between. It just makes sense, so that you can be responsive, you can be reactive, you can do that future planning, but you can do the firefighting where you need to, and more effectively, I think, rather than kind of being in a rush all the time and things get missed.
mm.
So I think people are starting to come around to that way of thinking now.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to the questions that we knew we were going to have, because I could just go round the houses with you, Kylie. I'm not going to lie. I think we've touched on this a little bit, but just from your experience, what is attractive about working in a school as a non-teacher? Because part of this exponential kind of growth for support staff is we are going to need to recruit, and we know that there's a recruitment
Oh
crisis
yeah,
in teaching, but I guess what I'm saying is that perhaps amplifies the need for very good support staff.
but there's a recruitment crisis for support staff as well. I've over the past year or so, there's been that many support staff roles in my former school, and including the school that I'm at now already. We've just uh, advertised a pastoral post. We had one applicant, and it's a really good job. It's an absolutely amazing job. The people who are doing the job are so good and amazing at their jobs, and they're well respected in school. It's you go to work enjoying your job, but it's the pay that kind of, I think, is the barrier in terms of that recruitment. But your question was what's attractive. So
Kylie, I would love to interview you for a job, because I can just see we would be all over everywhere. We wouldn't answer the question, but we wouldn't
Oh,
care.
I
We'd
never
just be
do.
so happy. Well, you must have done something right for this last one.
Well, I would say that what is attractive is the fact that, I touched on it before when I said that working in a school is like part of a community. Um, it is a mini community in itself, and I think being support staff, you're not kind of squirreled away in your own department all of the time. You can get out and about. You can speak to kind of members of staff from all areas. It's not so oh, what's that word I'm searching for?
Insular?
Cliques. Clique.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. In school how you have your cliques within, departments kind of sticking together. You know, I've been an honorary member of the science department. I've been an honorary member of the tech department. I've been never Spanish, never MFL. But
Okay, let's talk about that later.
absolutely not. But you get to be friends with all of these members of staff from all these different areas, including the admin staff, the office staff, just people that teachers wouldn't typically get out and about and get to know people, because you don't get a chance to stop and talk to your colleagues during the day. So, you get to just experience a kind of a richer sense of the school community, as I would say, as a non-teacher. And the kids are just amazing as well. The kids are what make the job. The children are just,
Yeah.
as a member of support staff, you're often kind of the ones who get to know the kids on that more personal level, and that is just, there aren't really any words for how rewarding that is.
Yeah, and I think I probably can imagine, because as a teacher myself, that is the thing that brought me to the profession. But you're right, support staff have that kind of oversight that I think as classroom teachers we're so busy in our lanes that we don't get to, not through any reason of not wanting to, but just the demands are tough. And obviously there are
Mm,
practical benefits to working in a school if you've got children, for example, because you'll get the holidays
mm.
off. So I can see, but is there anything that you think schools could do to make working in schools more attractive to non-teachers?
It does come down to pay at the end of the day. It's a stressful job. There's no shying away from that. The fact that working in a school is an incredibly stressful job. Um, and I'm dealing with, I was in my previous school, I was the longest serving member of the safeguarding team, and I
Wow.
would deal with the most serious cases that you could imagine. But I was one of the lowest paid members of, the school. Well, I
Yeah.
was probably the lowest paid member on the safeguarding team, but I was dealing with the most serious cases. I had DSLs coming to me and asking for advice because they were new to position. That happened on a regular kind of a basis through the years, because they knew my experience and valued it. Yet that wasn't rewarded in my pay packet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're dealing with difficult topics. I don't talk about the cases that I deal with very often because it's difficult for people to hear. You're not hearing, people don't think that the things that we deal with in schools go on.
Hmm.
And things like sexual assaults and serious sexual assaults that people just wouldn't ever think happened. We're dealing with this, and it's hard to hear. It's hard to be the first person that a person discloses a rape to, for example.
Yeah, and it's
um,
skilled work. So we're
yeah,
talking about
it is. It's really
money, aren't
skilled
we?
work, and I'm
And,
highly trained in my field. I have, that's what my degree is that
mm,
active listening and the confidentiality, the boundaries that you have to put in place, the how you set the room, how you set the tone, body line. It's nuanced. It's very, very nuanced that people kind of take for granted, I think, when
yeah, and the danger is, Kylie, if that isn't a well-paid job, I don't know how you're going to recruit staff who are so skilled, because that's
yeah.
such important work.
Yeah, exactly. My training is no kind of lower than that of a teacher. Um, you know, if you look at all of the qualifications that I've got, um, but that is the barrier. That is something that's kind of what's putting people off, really.
Yeah, and I think time also plays a part in this, Kylie, because I can't imagine from what you've just described, the specifics of that previous job in particular. I can't imagine you would clock off your contracted hour, go home,
Oh, I never
and
do.
do something else. But
Yeah,
there has to be a recognition that as teachers, if you're on the main pay scale or upper pay scale, i.e., not on the leadership scale, you've got the 12-6-5 hours
exactly. Yeah,
and any other duties that are reasonable in order for you to execute your role. But there isn't that same contractual obligation often for support staff, and yet it
no.
is work that can't wait. It's
Oh,
work that
exactly.
you can't have that approach. And if you're not paying staff for their time, then I think it probably becomes quite tricky. I don't know if you've got any experience of that. I mean, would
Yeah.
you have ever got time in lieu or anything like that because you've spent all
well,
night.
the way that support staff contracts often work is that you you have your set hours that you're paid for, and then anything, say for example, if you had a meeting after school, then you could claim that back as either time in lieu or it depends on your contract. Sometimes you have to work a certain amount of hours extra across the year, which you easily did, and things like insets count for that. But in
But with that
terms of that
said,
work, well, exactly. But in terms of that that casual work that you don't put on the calendar, it isn't scheduled. It isn't things like meetings. It isn't things like training.
mhm,
You might be there until 5 o'clock at night making phone calls and logging on CPOMs. That you can't really claim that because no one's asked you to do it, but
mhm.
it's got to be done. It's somebody's life, it's somebody's record. So it's not safe if it doesn't get done as well. But that's not something that you can just kind of claim back. Then you go home and you're working on your laptop for however long you need to, but nobody sees that. You don't get the timesheets to claim for that. So
Yeah, whereas I think for teachers that we all know that
there
happens.
is that
That's an expect. It's a given. It's seldom worthy of comment. It's like, oh, that
yeah.
happens. But I think the expectations around support staff either should be different or could be different. I don't know. Or what I mean,
Yeah, but the thing with support staff is there's so much goodwill, isn't there? Like you said before, kind of the
yeah,
type of people that are support staff, they're amazing people, and they want the best for the children as well, and they care about their jobs. They're enthusiastic about their jobs. They enjoy their jobs, so they want to do a good job because they genuinely care. So it is, there is that goodwill of support staff, but at the end of the day, that can only go so far. You know, before it kind of takes the mick in terms of how much people rely on that to get the job done.
yeah, and we've all got a limit. We've all and we
Oh,
and
absolutely, yeah.
and
And I
I
think,
hate the thought that support staff are just exploited. It when it feels like that when you put it in those
oh,
terms that
absolutely. And the
we
thing
will just
is,
rinse support staff, not
mm,
not acknowledge what they're doing outside of their contracted hours, and just pay them poorly, and we just all accept that that's the way it is. I mean,
yeah,
is there
and
anything we can do? Do you think as individual schools? I think we know there's a bigger decision making realm above us, but as individual schools, is there anything we can do?
that's a really difficult question because the answer or it does just come down to pay. And that's not for schools to make that decision. As long as head teachers can back us up on this, at any kind of opportunity with the unions or whatever, kind of
Lobby.
lobby, yeah, just have our
Act.
back. Just please, yeah, just
And I
find.
guess just acknowledge is what we're saying.
Mm,
Acknowledge. Okay,
oh yeah,
amazing.
and
So
the thing is,
Kylie,
sorry, carry
go
on.
go on. No, you go.
I was just going to say, kind of, my situation is a bit unique because you asked kind of how long you get there, and I probably wouldn't have carried on being a member of support staff if I didn't have that side, the sideline of having the shop, because it just would not have been sustainable. So there's no way that I would have got to, the reason why I've got to where I am now in this current job is because of those years of experience, and kind of all the training that I've done through schools up to this point. But there would have been no way that I'd have ever had kind of this longevity if that was my only job. I would have been forced into kind of maybe doing teacher training or looking at alternatives, because it's not for somebody just starting out in their career. 13 years ago, it's not a sustainable um, career. I don't want to put anybody off because, like I say, things are getting better, and I think people are finally starting to see the value in that. But just as much as schools can invest into support staff, please give them all the CPD, give them all the training. It's so vital.
Amazing. That is a fabulous advice, Kylie. We are going to talk CPD in a moment. We're just going to have a quick pause for the news. If you're just tuning in, I'm talking to Kylie Jones about empowering our support staff in schools. We will be right back.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, a leading publisher of books, directories, educational guides and magazines specifically aimed at forward-thinking schools in the UK and beyond. Have you checked out their latest releases? Don't miss out! Visit johncattbookshop.com to explore their full range of titles and advance your own professional development today. Happy reading!
This episode of Teachers Talk Radio has been made possible with support from Witherslack Group, the UK's leading provider of SEN education and care. They're here to support you too through an ever-growing offer of free resources, including webinars, podcasts, articles and events aimed at supporting teaching professionals like you. Visit their website at www.witherslackgroup.co.uk to find out more. This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
TES magazine reported on news that Education Secretary Gillian Keegan said that the proposed schools bill will not progress in this parliamentary session. The bill itself was originally launched in May this year and covered a range of areas including school attendance, safeguarding and new powers over multi-academy trusts. Ms Keegan spoke at the Commons Education Select Committee, confirming that the schools bill will not progress in the third session. She also said her department remained committed to the objectives and would be prioritising some aspects of the bill. Of the aspects of the bill Ms Keegan stated she wanted to focus on, she identified the need for a register to identify and account for children not in schools, as well as helping more faith schools join multi-academy trusts. One area not seen as a priority, however, was the creation of more grammar schools, with Ms Keegan stating her strong views that 93% of children will never get to go to one, and the belief that the academy structure remains the route to make the biggest difference to the most children the quickest. The Mirror Online carries a story about Labour MP Zara Sultana's proposal to widen the free school meal scheme in primary schools across England. Under the plans, all primary pupils would get access to free school meals. The current scheme for universal free school meals ends in year 2. The article suggests that under the current plan, around 800,000 children living in poverty miss out on free meals due to the strict eligibility criteria. Ms Sultana will bring forward a bill in the coming week. The MP for Coventry South said it was a major issue when families simply can't afford everyday groceries, and that providing meals for school was another strain. She went on to point out that both Scottish and Welsh governments have plans to introduce universal free school meals, but accused the government in England of prioritising tax breaks for the wealthiest people. Warwickshire World online news site reports on the arrival of delegates from around the world to a conference focusing on developing technical education. More than 50 visitors attended the event organised by the British Council at Warwick Trident College. The college is part of the WCG group. Guests arrived from a range of countries in Africa and Asia, with delegations including government ministers and education officials. A spokesperson for the WCG said technical education is one of the key pillars of a successful developing economy, and that the hope was that delegates would take away some insights which will have a positive impact on their country's developments in technical and vocational training. The latest Sunday Times Schools Guide has been released, and many local news outlets are reporting on the successes of schools in their surrounding areas. Northern Ireland outlets report that the guide has rated 7 secondary schools in the national top 50, calling this a significant achievement in light of the nation's comparatively small population. It was acknowledged that several of the Northern Ireland schools mentioned in the list have been described as highly selective grammar schools, with the DUP's Diane Dodds noting that whilst Northern Ireland is punching above its weight, there will always be areas where improvements can be made. She went on to point out that the list as a whole is dominated by expensive fee-paying schools. Finally, Keele University has launched the UK's first law undergraduate degree designed to help tackle the climate crisis. The new course in Law with Environmental Sustainability is the first of its kind in the UK. It has been developed to create legal professionals with a good knowledge of environmental obligations on governments and communities. Professor Alison Brammer, head of the School of Law at Keele, said, "The climate crisis affects everyone, and we need legal professionals who understand the issues we face." This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Jo Fox.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Hello, we're back. Kylie, are you still there?
I think so.
Oh, I think so too. Fancy that. Okay, so if you've just joined us, this is me, Tracey Leese. It's our last late show of 2022. I say last like I've been doing it forever. It's actually show 3, but we won't draw too much attention to that. And I'm talking tonight to Kylie Jones, the designated safeguarding mental health and wellbeing lead. She is a non-teaching member of SLT, and we're talking about empowering support staff. Hello, Kylie.
Hello.
Hello. So just before we went to the news, we were talking about CPD. We were talking about getting behind our support staff. Is there a story around a school trying to make you attend some CPD that you created? Did somebody sell you a place to your own CPD? What was that about?
Did they?
Okay. So did somebody try and put you on a course, but you wrote the course?
Oh, no, I know what this was. No, there was, I think, wait.
It's been exaggerated to me,
well,
Kylie.
I don't know what you've heard, but the only, I can think of 2 things. There was one on my first day of a new job where I was put into trans training, how to support trans students in school. And anybody who knows me will know that I have ran an LGBT social group in school. We're probably going for about 8 years. Maybe not.
You were
that
ahead
long,
of the
maybe
game,
7.
weren't you?
Oh yeah, we were one of the first in the country to do an LGBT social group in school. And as part of, just because we'd ran the group, I saw one day on Twitter a shout out from a company called My Generation who were working with Stonewall, and they were asking if any LGBT groups in school would want to link up and be filmed in terms of providing a good example of how other schools should support their transgender students. So I got in touch with them thinking nothing will come of it, but they came in and they did a whole day. It was the best day. Honestly, it's my favorite day I've ever had in work ever, walking around with a film crew. And so so we are my group, they're all old now, they've all left school, but we were the when schools go on to do the Stonewall training in terms of LGBT and how to support transgender students in a secondary school, it's me and the videos that we filmed in our group. So but yeah, it was funny because I went to this inset day and I was told, oh, you've got trans training today, and I was like, but where is it from? Because I am the trans training.
I am the trans training. Thank you very much. I am the
trans training. Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, we've got to say that sentence, and I really enjoyed that. Okay, so let's go back to actual CPD that we can put into place. So what do you think schools can offer their support staff as means of the best way of upskilling them from a CPD point of view? What's your experience?
Well, I think it goes back to that the whole appraisals and performance management conversation that I had with my line manager all those years ago. I think you've got to be led by that member of staff in terms of what their interests are. There's no point just kind of guessing what CPD would be relevant. Have those conversations. What are they interested in? What do they want to learn? What would they be interested in doing more of? And then,
so in other words, a bespoke model, in the same way that we would empower our teachers and perhaps ECTs, is to get to know them and like somebody asked of you, what's your aim?
Yeah, exactly. What do you want to do, and how are we going to help to get there? Things like the way that I approach my CPD is I think of what is topical at the moment. So years ago we had kind of explosion of in the pastoral and safeguarding world of self-harm. So I've been on endless training days for that. When all the mental health came to the forefront as well, that suicide awareness training and things that we were having to deal with on a daily basis, that yes, I had already covered as part of my degree, but it never hurts to stay relevant and stay up to date, with the latest guidelines. So it's what I see coming through. After the lockdown, I just saw an absolute explosion in eating disorders, which is something that I'd never really done any kind of CPD on before. So I sought it out. Nobody came to me and said, "Oh, Kylie, we've noticed there's lots of eating disorders around. Do you want to learn about eating disorders?" I kind of had to seek that out for myself. So I suppose it's staying on the pulse with what's happening, what's topical, and balancing that with what the members of staff want to learn about. I thought I'd done all the CPD there was to do in the safeguarding world, until I started my new job, and now I'm kind of booking myself onto things left, right, and centre, because there are different challenges in this school that I never had in my old school.
Yeah. So just to pick up on one of the things you've just said, so I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I did write a book about leadership quite recently.
Did you? Oh, I must read that sometime.
You must have heard about it, but
definitely didn't help in the Lady Gaga chapter.
You definitely did not attend a book launch, but one of the things that we say in that book to people who are interested in being a leader is to find their niche and then to kind of take ownership of their own CPD in terms of how you can upskill and become specialized in one area. And from the sounds of it, Kylie, that's in effect what you did. You have specialized into an area that is high skill, high will, very kind of important, but there's an awful lot of CPD available in that area in order to make you very, very, I guess, employable, to really exploit and maximize your impact on your school. Is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because the thing is, it all goes down on the CV as well, doesn't it? So it just, it is invaluable. And I think one of the things that I enjoy about the way that they do it at my new school is that it's kind of centralized almost. So the local borough council safeguarding partnership always sends out a bulletin with what training is going to be happening this month, and that's sent out to everybody. So rather than just kind of select members of staff, rather than just sending it to just the pastoral department or just the teaching assistants, it's sent out to everybody. And then you can kind of scour the brochure on what's going on and what would be relevant, what do you want to go on, and then you can take your pick. It's absolutely brilliant.
And I think probably CPD might be easier as a support member of staff, because when you mention CPD and looking at courses, I'm thinking cover, blue sky request.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I suppose there is that level of autonomy, which is, I suppose, a perk that we've not quite touched on this evening. Actually, there is a little bit more
that's one of my
autonomy.
Yeah,
I bet.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite things, is being able to manage your own time, which is different for teaching assistants because they do have the timetable. But being able to manage your own time and just kind of be flexible is one of the best things. But yeah, I mean, in terms of booking onto CPD, whenever you submit it on Genie or whatever your school uses, I just love it every time it asks how much cover is required and how much it's going to cost, and I'm like 0. And I feel like you feel like you're doing the school a favour.
They're so lucky to have me. Thanks.
Yeah,
please,
so lucky
please
that I don't cost
course.
you anything. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that's technically true.
Well,
okay, we're going to have a very quick message, and then we're going to come back, finish up the show, and we are really, really learning about how to empower our support staff with my special guest, Kylie Jones. We will be right back.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, a leading publisher of books, directories, educational guides and magazines specifically aimed at forward-thinking schools in the UK and beyond. Have you checked out their latest releases? Don't miss out! Visit johncattbookshop.com to explore their full range of titles and advance your own professional development today. Happy reading!
This episode of Teachers Talk Radio has been made possible with support from Witherslack Group, the UK's leading provider of SEN education and care. They're here to support you too through an ever-growing offer of free resources, including webinars, podcasts, articles, and events aimed at supporting teaching professionals like you. Visit their website at www.witherslackgroup.co.uk to find out more.
I feel like Kylie's having a cup of tea.
I just took a tablet.
I know, I lived it. Okay. I hope the sponsors didn't mind that too much. Okay,
They
so
definitely
we've
didn't hear
got
it.
10 minutes left, and it's been brilliant tonight, by the way, Kylie, talking to you. I can't thank you enough for giving up your time. I know it's
Thanks for
like
having me.
the most exhausting part of the year. My favourite bit, by the way, Kylie, of me asking you to do this was you thinking it was 9 till 10 in the morning, telling me that you've got a meeting, and I was like, this new job of Kylie's is intense. Why have they got to doing stuff till 10 o'clock at night? And then I twigged what had happened. So
but you know my bedtime is 9 o'clock, so
mine too. Okay, so let's just think about people who were 13 years ago when you started out in the school?
Yeah, I reckon.
And perhaps don't yet see that final role as where, you know, where you are, where they're headed. Sorry. What advice would you give to somebody that is just starting out now in 2022?
Make your intentions known. Make sure that you take yourself seriously, and make sure that you're taken seriously by others. I think
great advice. I maybe need to start.
Just
be serious. Behave in the workplace.
Also follow the 7 Nolan principles of leadership, as you can read about in Teach Like a Queen.
Which we are absolutely not here to promote, Kylie.
No.
Okay, so
I would say just kind of, it's a lot about the way that you value yourself as a member of staff, and making sure that is, your school know that you are there to be taken seriously. They know what your intentions are. They know that you're not just there passively, because then they can support you in putting those wheels in motion.
Amazing.
So
that's really good advice. And actually, it's the same thing I say to ECTs. It's the same thing I say to aspiring leaders is, I don't say take yourself seriously, but that is good advice for me, because I'm at the part of the term where it's hard for me to behave and be sensible. My head teacher was like, getting tired, are we? Filter's not working. And I was like, there's a filter. Oh, okay.
Filter's never working.
Yeah, apparently not at the minute. Okay, so final thing before I'm going to ask you to finish some sentences for me as final thoughts. What progression opportunities do you think support staff perhaps aren't aware of, that they may not realise? Is there any end game jobs that perhaps they're not aware of yet?
Well, it's difficult, because I think we're in a period where that's all changing. So yeah, I would say go for DSL, go for pastoral managers, work your way up, go for Senko.
Is school business manager the holy grail of support staff, Kylie? Because there's a non-teaching. I mean, me neither, because I don't have that skill set. But that isn't to say it's not important, valuable, and meaningful work.
Really valuable.
I couldn't do that. But is it the holy grail? Is that Is that the end game if you work
If
as
you
an
like numbers.
administrator?
Yes, I would say, yeah, if you're in the office, and that's the way that you work, and you
Or a
are doing that kind
CFO
of
kind of,
admin.
yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. There's no reason why you can't achieve that. Um,
And
you just have.
your post that you've currently got, sorry, Kylie, your post that you've currently got is unique because you're non-teaching your SLT, but you're not the school business manager. And I suppose that's the thing I want people to get from this, is that isn't the only way that you can be a senior leader as a non-teacher.
There's absolutely loads of non-teaching DSLs within the next few years. I'm telling you now. I've already started to see, like I said earlier, on Twitter, people just connecting because people are finally starting to see that it just makes sense and there's value in it. It just works, and
Yeah, but
it's a viable career.
But there are caveats on things like being a Senko. You do have to have QTS, and that's often struck me as odd because for a teaching assistant, that could be quite a natural area of progression for them. But currently, that's not a possibility.
Yeah, which is that's difficult, but don't let that put you off. I still do all the training, do all of the courses that you possibly can do in that area, because I can see that changing one day. I really can.
Okay, brilliant. Right, we're going to finish some sentences now. Kylie, are you ready?
Okay, hit me.
Okay. So try and think, because the answers to these could be many things, but try and think in the context of the conversation that we've had, if you possibly can. So schools need to remember that.
That everything is about the children.
Oh,
Don't
yes.
lose sight of the fact that everything that you do, you have to think about what is the impact on the child. Is it work for work's sake, or is it actually going to impact the children? That's why we're here.
Love that. Love that. And then like some things like money, like they are important, but only because of the impact that it has on children, not because it's money or whatever. Okay. I'm thinking about business
Schools
managers.
need to remember that they're not a corporation.
Yes.
Yeah. Community, not corporation.
Oh, Kylie, you just keep giving me the sound
Should have
bites.
been an
Okay.
English teacher.
There's still time, my darling. There's still time. Okay. Support staff's impact is?
Whatever you want to make it.
Okay.
It's invaluable.
I would have gone with that.
Yeah, invaluable. We'll go with invaluable.
Let's just settle on that. Okay. And then finally, school leaders can empower support staff by
letting them forge their own paths. Letting them work under their own initiative, giving them the opportunities to decision make and learn. Let them flourish.
Just let them grow.
Just let them grow. Plant them and let them grow.
Amazing. Kylie, thank you so much for your time this evening. I've loved, and this hour's flown. Did you feel that?
It has. It's been really fun. Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's 31 minutes and we haven't played the news. Better get on that. Which is a different feeling to the previous shows. Okay, Kylie, thank you so much. Any last words that you want our listeners to take away, to remember about support staff, perhaps in their interactions, in their daily interactions? What's one thing they can take away from this conversation?
Just appreciation, gratitude, and don't give up.
Amazing. Fantastic. Kylie, thank you so much. Okay, so that's us for this evening, everybody. I've absolutely loved these first few shows with you, and I will be back next year. The first show of 2023, I've got the 9th of January, and I've got Hannah Wilson from Diverse Educators, and we are going to talk about building more diversity at leadership level. So I can't wait for that conversation. So a huge thank you this evening to Kylie. Thank you for listening in with us. Really interesting conversation, and I'm definitely going to have in my head tomorrow, my interactions with support staff are perhaps going to land a little bit differently. So thank you so much for that, Kylie. I wish you all a wonderful Christmas. Please do enjoy the break, and that is an order, and I will see you in 2023. Have a wonderful Christmas, and I will see you on the other side.